Hey everybody, welcome back to Mike's Wooden Things and Stuff. Today we are making a record crate. A work friend of mine wants to give a record crate to her boyfriend who has overfilled the record crates that he already has. So she thought she'd get him another one for Christmas and asked me to put something together for her. So let's dig through some wood. I'm going to go with some cedar and I think some Philippine mahogany for the corners to give them a little more solidity, rigidity, and make it. Got a record, Bowie, so we can make sure that it's gonna fit some records. Let's get cutting. All right, this should be. No, I just about said it. I'm not gonna say it. Okay, so we start by grabbing some cedar and ripping it oversized. I want to say these chunks are about 18 inches long or so. I needed the inside diameter to be just over 15 and a half. And I didn't want to do the math and figure out what a 45-degree angle to make a 15 and a half and a bit inside surface was. So I just cut them all oversized. And then once I get to mitering, I can just sneak up on the cut and get them all the same. So we're just milling it down. Pieces at this point were about 4¼ inches wide, I want to say, because that was approximately how wide I thought they probably were going to need to be. Then we can tilt the table saw blade and put the miter sled on the table saw. And here's where we start trying to figure out where does that second cut I need to happen. And basically I just set a stop block and I just snuck up on the cut until it was right. And I needed, like I said, it was 15 and a half and a bit. Whatever that is. I'm not going to deal in 30 seconds and stuff. That's ridiculous. It's 15 and a half and a bit. And then we can do a test to make sure that those miters are coming together nice and tight. And once I've got 12 pieces cut and all the miters are coming together nice and tight and they're all the same and it fits a record, we can slap the dado stack on the table saw because the bottom of those boxes needs to have a groove cut for a panel. Obviously a record crate needs to have a bottom. So here's me approximating the size of the piece of plywood and the dado set. Make a test cut, put it in, figure out that it's a little bit too loose, so I took out one of the shims, put it back in, and it ended up being nice and snug, which is what you want. And second test cut, grab the piece I'm going to use, and put it in there, and nice, tight. Yeah, you can pick the board up with the other board, or you're good. And so we can put the groove in all 4 of the sides, and then we can move on to the top box. Needs to have 2 sides that have finger holes in them, or handles, or whatever you want to call them. So just drilled out the ends with a Forstner bit and chopped out the middle with the what's that called? That's a jigsaw. That's what that's called. And then over to the spindle sander and smoothed it all up. And then I've got 2 boards with handles and 4 boards with grooves, and I can cut the bottom panel to fit. And then we can get to assembling each of those individual boxes. I don't know that this was the best approach to making a record crate. It's just the way that, I don't know, this is my first record crate, and I was like, well, it's just, if I just make 3 boxes and join them together, then it'll be a record crate. So that's what I did. I was probably still in the mindset from Christmas market box making season, and that's just the approach that I took. I don't know that, whatever. It worked out. So it's not the wrong way to make a record crate. If it works, it's not wrong. So then we've got our 3 boxes, essentially. Make sure they're all nice and square, so that the corner bits that we're going to make next actually seat properly on those corners. Little 3/4 inch chunks of plywood. Those are actually my little standoffs for finishing that I just put in between. They were actually, once I got them all stacked up, they were a little bit too tall, so I shaved off about 1/8 on all of them. Just on the table saw, like this. Look. I mean, you can see what I'm doing. I don't know why I need to. Well, whatever. I'll explain what I'm doing. That's why you do it this way. Then take the stack itself and measure an approximate, a little bit oversized. This is the Meranti that I had laying around and I've been using on various projects. 8-quarter Meranti is about 4-ish inches wide. I just used the thickness of the wood itself to set the table saw fence to get 4 square pieces. After I took it over to the jointer and made sure that I had flat and square one side. Here's my approach to making it an L. Let's call it an L. So I wanted just sort of the outside bits of that piece of wood. So I set my saw blade up to the height that I needed it, and then I measured how much was left, and then I set the fence to that, and then I could make 2 cuts with the piece that's going to be removed on the outside of the fence, not between the blade and the fence. You don't want to wedge the cut off part on the other side of the blade between the fence and the blade, because that's asking for trouble. So it should release on the outside of the saw blade. And then you got yourself your little corner bracket. 3 more of those. And then, yeah, like I said, I cut them a little bit oversized so that I could trim them down to fit the corners after it was all stacked up. And essentially we've got ourselves a record crate once we attach all of these pieces. And what I decided to do, I was going to use dowels for little accents. And then I thought, you know what, I think I want the mechanical advantage of a screw in this one. But I don't like the look of screw heads, generally. So I'm laying out all my spots. I'm making a story stick so that they're all the same. I did 2 on one side of each piece and 1 on the other side so that they wouldn't run into each other in the middle of the box, if that makes sense. So one side of these will go 2, 1, 2, and the other side of each of these will go 1, 2, 1. You'll see in a second. See how they aren't going to run into each other. So then we can counterboard a space for a plug later, and then I can what's the word I'm looking for? Countersunk. Yes. A screw in there, and then I just grabbed some of the scrap cedar that I used on the slats, and I cut a bunch of plugs with my plug cutters. This is my first time using these plug cutters. And also, word of advice, make sure you're using the right plug cutter when you're doing this, because I cut 40 plugs at the wrong size, and I had to go back and do them bigger, because yeah, I wasn't paying attention. So then I just used some epoxy and I plugged up all the holes with these cedar bits that match the slats-ish. I mean, it's the same wood, so, because I thought that might look nice and contrasty, but it actually ended up being relatively similarly colored in the end after it was finished. But they do stand out, and I think it looks nice. Over to the belt sander to flush them up, over to the random orbit sander to smooth it out. I think I sanded up to 150 because it's a record crate and it doesn't need to be super smooth. And then Howard's feed and wax, and you're done. So that's my record crate for my friend to give to her boyfriend for Christmas. All right, record crate. Well, there we go. We got ourselves a record crate. I think it turned out pretty good. Got Western red cedar for the slats and Philippine mahogany, Meranti, whatever you want to call it, for the corners to give them some durability, because they're the parts that are going to get knocked and bumped around. So there we go. Record crate. Yeah, record crate. Anyway, that's it for this one. I got oil and wax all over me, so I'm going to go get cleaned up and crack a beer, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. All right, record crate. Now I got to make a ton more stuff because Christmas is coming. Woo!